you know, they find the dead unicorn. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be a first impressions on the Karity Unicorn Dreams palette. So this is a really cool brand. They're kind of a startup brand. You might have seen like their ads on Facebook and stuff like that. That's where I've seen them. And then one of my friends was like, hey, go check out their Instagram. And I was like, this brand seems cool. I'm gonna order a palette from them. So this brand was founded by a man named Isaac Rami. And how this brand was formed is kind of cool. He's not a makeup artist. The reason why he created this brand was because his wife asked him to go buy makeup for her, and he was just shocked at how expensive things were. And so the whole idea of the brand is to cut out the retailer middle man and still produce high quality shadows and products, but for an affordable price. And I think that's a really cool concept and kind of important, that, you know, everyone should be able to have access to good makeup products. The price range I would say is about middle of the road. It's definitely not drugstore prices, but it's not high end either, obviously. This palette retails for $25, and it was $28 with shipping, which is completely reasonable. You do get 15 shadows in this palette. The packaging is nice. It is cardboard, but it feels nice. It does look a little bit cheap in places, but I think it's still nice. I love that you get a big mirror there. It's got a cool holographic unicorn on it, and it looks really cool. The box it came in looks exactly the same. It's just, you know, a box. What was I even talking about? My camera shut off. Sorry guys. So on the back it does list all the shadows, and there's a small little description here. It says, do you believe in magic? This unique palette contains 15 perfect pastel colors in glitter and matte finishes. Release your inner unicorn with endless mystic looks. So you do get quite the range of shadows in here. It looks like there are, how many? 10 glitter shades and then 5 matte shades. I wouldn't really call these like a true glitter. I would say they're more like an iridescent type of feel, but you'll kind of see that and what my final thoughts are at the end of the video. So I do think that $25 is a reasonable price for this. Again, it's kind of middle of the road, kind of like Target brands, like Pixie kind of deal. It's about the same price range as Pixie's, as what I would say. There definitely are more affordable brands on the market, like ColourPop or Morphe. Both make really good shadows, and they're much more affordable than this. However, I do think that overall it's a good quality palette. Again, you'll see my thoughts more on in the video. They have more kind of like basic palettes. Like they have this one, and then their Just Peachy palette, which is kind of, you know, meant to be like kind of the Too Faced peach type of deal. And it looks kind of similar to the ColourPop palette that just came out. I don't remember what that one's called, but a lot of people were saying it was a dupe for the Natasha Denona one. Kind of looks like that one, just a lot of orangey, really pretty warm shades. So they have this one and that one, and I think those are their newest releases. And then they also have bigger eyeshadow palettes that retail for $29, and in those ones you get 21 shadows as opposed to 15. So I think you get a little bit more like bang for your buck with those ones than you do with the Unicorn and Peachy palette. It doesn't say on here how many grams there are, so I'm not sure what the cost breakdown is as far as that goes. But it is a cool palette. You will see my thoughts throughout the video. As far as shipping, it got here in about a week. Really good shipping. Reasonably priced. So yeah, I'm gonna quit talking now and let's put on some makeup. So I've already done my eyebrows. As you can see, they're a little intense today, but we're gonna go with it. This is kind of my first time digging into this palette. It's so pretty, look at it. I've swatched a few of these shadows on my hand, like a little bit, but nothing too much. You do get a little plastic protector thingy, which I will probably lose in like 5 minutes. But these eyeshadows look super pretty. I'm really excited. I love how like diverse this palette is. Right off the bat, just swatching these a little bit, I feel like there's some shades that are not going to perform as well as others. But we shall see. I think I kind of want to play around with these purpley shades here. These just looked the most stunning when I swatched them. And then maybe add in like a pop of blue or something. So yeah, we're gonna jump into it. The only really like transition shade that I see is this one called Hooves. You could also use Forbidden, although this one, it's a weird formula. It feels like one of the mattes, which feels super creamy and buttery, but it has like flecks of glitter in it. And I don't know how I feel about it. I'm not sure if I understand it. So we're going to go in with Hooves, this shade right here, and I'm just going to pop that in the crease. I've already primed my eyelids with the Urban Decay Primer Potion and just set them with like a cream shadow. I'm just taking a fluffy clean brush here and I'm dipping into that Hooves shade. There is a little bit of kickback, but nothing too outrageous. And I'm just going to pop this in the crease. It's actually more pigmented than I thought that shade was going to be, which is cool. Just want to pop this in there for a transition shade. My roommate's watching a documentary about like deep sea exploration, so apologies if there is background noise. So right away, I think that these are blending pretty nicely, or this shade at least. Just kind of blended itself out, not really having to do a whole lot of work, which is cool. I'm going to take a little bit of that Hooves shade too and just put it on the outer V. Kind of brush it almost all over the lid. Yeah, I'm really not having to do a whole lot of work to blend this out at all. So that is a good sign. You do have to build up the color a little bit, I feel like. Alright, so that was super nice, easy to blend out, still pigmented. It's a really nice kind of purpley transition shade. There aren't a whole lot of transition shades in this palette, so that is a downside. I think that for some looks you're definitely going to have to transition or use another palette. But you can definitely still get some looks, and this is a pretty good kind of universal transition shade. I'm going to try to use as many shades as possible. So don't know what I want to do. Let's go ahead and take this shade Forbidden. I'm curious to see how it performs. I'm going to use that to deepen up the crease a little bit. I'm kind of dragging this out a little bit to create a V shape and just elongate the eye. That one seemed to blend out pretty much the same as the other matte shadow did. You don't really see the glitter very much once it's on the eyes. I definitely see like a few little specks poking through, but nothing too much. Like, it's definitely not a metallic shade. I'm actually very confused by the shade. I'm not sure really what it's supposed to be. If it's supposed to be matte and there's just like a few glitter particles in it or what. I don't know. It's a very weird shade. I don't know how I feel about it. The shade itself, like the color is nice. It's just, I don't know why they felt the need to put glitter in it. I'm not too worried about it getting messy under here because we're going to clean that up anyway. Okay, moving on. Okay, so I'm taking a kind of angled fluffy brush and I'm gonna go into the shade, I don't even know yet, do I? I'm gonna go into this shade here. That previous shade, by the way, was Forbidden. I'm gonna go into Forest. Forbidden Forest. I think that's a Harry Potter joke. That's definitely a Harry Potter joke. Because, you know, they find the dead unicorn in the forest. I see you, Karity. I see you. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to take Forest, and then I'm just going to put that in the outer V to deepen things up. This shade, when I swatched it, seems super, like, buttery and nice. And, oh yeah, that's pigmented. Okay, I really like this brown. It's definitely pigmented, but it's still blending out super easily. I'm just going to take that fluffy brush again and blend a little bit in the crease. Getting like some creasing right here. I don't know, I think I'm the only person in the world that gets this, like, it's like vertical creasing here. It happens with almost every single shadow, so I blended out super easily. So I'm gonna go on to the other one. This is a really, really nice brown. So far I'm liking these shadows. I did have a little bit of trouble blending up here just because I have a scar right there, so it makes it difficult, but that's not the shadow's fault. So I'm going to take Hooves again, that first transition shade, and just kind of like go over everything and just kind of help blend everything together. So let's move into some of the shimmers. I'm impressed with the mattes so far. They're really creamy, buttery, pigmented, easy to blend, so that's the dream, right? I'm going to go into some of the shimmer shades now. I'm really excited about this shade here, Believer. It's a really pretty deep shimmery purple, and it looked really pretty and pigmented when I swatched it. So I'm going to take that on my finger and put that on kind of the outer edge. Oh yeah, that's pretty. It's not like super metallic, but the pigment's definitely there. Ooh, it is a little patchy right there. A little bit of fallout. Let's try a wet brush. Okay, so I have the wet shadow on this just flat brush now. And let's see how that looks. It's definitely a pretty color. I'm just not getting a whole lot of like reflectiveness on the eyes. It just looks very, not matte, but like kind of satiny. I wouldn't call this a metallic shade. I'm going to take this like stiff blending brush and kind of blend out the edges. Actually just going to take some of that shade on the brush. Yeah, this shade is a little bit patchy. Fine to pack all over the lid, I think, but trying to blend it is not great. I'm having to build this up quite a bit. I'm going to take a tiny bit of that forest shade on a fluffy brush. Shade is beautiful, the Believer shade. It's just you definitely kind of have to work with this shadow, which I'm a little disappointed with. Kind of wish I had done like a cut crease. Alright, I think we're going to call that good. So the next shade I'm going to take is the shade Main. It's a really pretty purple, kind of iridescent like. I'm going to pop that on kind of the inner corner. Ooh, that's pretty. Oh, that's so pretty. That's beautiful. That reminds me of kind of the Kat Von D Alchemist palette, except a little bit deeper. Alright, we have a winner. So, that's what we have so far. Just taking a makeup wipe and cleaning up the edge a little bit. Taking a cream sheen now on a clean fluffy brush and just blending out the edges. I'm really liking that shade Main. That looks really pretty, especially layered on top of that other shade. I'm going to attempt now to do the same thing with the other eye. Just going to go straight in with my finger with Believer. I'm going to try a dry brush. We'll just see if that works better. Okay, going in with a dry flat brush now. I don't like that. Yeah, so you definitely need either a wet brush or a finger with these. This shadow at least. I'm struggling with this shade. I'd be curious to try it with like a glitter glue. Maybe that would help it a little bit. Okay, I'm going to take that Main shade again on a finger. And that's that pretty iridescent purple, and pop that in the inner corner. The shade is super pretty. I really prefer this one to Believer a lot. Okay, so originally I wasn't going to do liner with this look, but I feel like it definitely needs it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, and I will be right back. Hey guys, I'm back. So I went ahead and applied some liner and lashes and did my face makeup. And now I'm just like baking everything. So while we do that, I'm going to go back in and do the lower lash line. Ultimately, I do like how the lid looks right now. That one shade was really difficult to work with, so I'm a bit apprehensive to try some more of the shimmer shades, but we'll kind of see how it goes. I'm going to go back into the palette and take the shade Hooves and run that on the lower lash line on a tapered blending brush. So far, I really like the mattes. The shimmers kind of seem to be hit and miss, but we'll see how this goes. running this on the lower lash line to kind of act as a transition shade again. So next I'm going to go in and take the shade, was it Pure? And I'm going to run that on the outer corner of the lower lash line. Really just like stamping my brush in there. It's like a flat shader brush. I'm just going to put that on the outer edge. Yeah, so again, I'm just not getting a lot of pigment with a dry brush. I'm going to try wetting it. It's a lot lighter on the eyes than it looks in the pan. I don't know if I like this for the lower lash line, but it is pretty. It's a really, I don't know if you can tell, but it's a pretty like silvery iridescent type of vibe with kind of like a pink shift almost. It's definitely going for a deeper look, but this will work. I'm gonna go into that chocolatey brown shade again, Forest, and put that on the outer edge as well. I'm layering that over top of that silver to make it darker. I want to do like a pop of color on the lower lash line. Just like shot one of my brushes across the room. So I'm going to take this kind of, I don't know what you'd call this, like a flat domed brush. And I'm actually going to go into this shade here, Noah, which is a kind of really pretty blue-based purpley color. Just like the pigmentation difference between the mattes and the shimmers is kind of unreal. I really want to do like a pop of color though, so I'm going to clean that brush off. And then I'm actually going to go in with the shade Skye and put that kind of in the center and going outward. Looking a lot more blue with that other shadow, but I'm liking that. Next, I'm going to take a pencil brush in the shade Gallop. Here, this is supposed to be a shimmer, but swatching it, it seemed more just like a satiny color. So let's see how this does. Okay, right off the bat, that has way more pigmentation than the other shimmers. I'm going to kind of connect this to that blue shade. Alright, it's coming together. I think I'm now going to take the shade Fairy Tale, which is a really pretty blue, and I'm going to put that in the center to kind of make it look more blue, and drag it out to the outer edge. Next I am going to take the shade Believer again and see if I can make this work to deepen up the outer corner. I'm actually going to wet this a little bit. I kind of want to make the lower lash line all a little bit shimmery. I'm going to take the shade Mystic, which is really, really pretty, kind of mermaidy blue color. Again, I just cleaned off that pencil brush, so I'm just taking that, and I'm going to try and pack that on the center. Ooh, that's pretty. I think we're almost done. I'm obviously going to have to do the other eye too, but we'll get there. I'm going to take the shade Spark, which is this really pretty kind of yellow-based gold. I think that'll contrast nicely with the purple. Taking a dry Wet n Wild brush and just popping that on the inner corner. Ooh, there we go. Some pigment. Okay, this one actually is giving a good amount of pigment and reflect. I am going to wet my brush a little bit. This one actually does look nice with a dry brush, but I'm going to wet it just to make it a little bit more intense. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Alright, I can get on board with that one. I want to see how that shade looks elsewhere. So I'm going to put a little bit, I think, on the inner, not the inner corner, but the almost inner corner. So that's that shade Pure. Again, I want to see how it looks over top of another shadow. So this is just a dry brush here. I'm not really getting a whole lot of payoff there. Yeah, that shade seems to perform similarly to the Believer shade, where it's just like I don't know, it's patchy and like something that you definitely need to work with a lot, so I don't know how crazy I am about that, which is a shame because it's such a pretty shade. It's like, it looks really cool, but it just, the payoff isn't there. So I'm going to add a little bit more of Believer to this side on the outer corner. I was able to build it up quite a bit more on the other side. I don't know, I might be a believer now. It's giving me a little something now. It's a bit much on the purple on the wing there, so I'm just gonna try and blend it out a little bit with that pencil brush. But I don't want it to change like the shape of it. This is a weird shadow. I don't know, I'm liking it more now. Like the pigmentation is there, there's just something weird about it. I can't quite explain it. I'm taking a Kat Von D Lock-It translucent setting powder. I'm just putting that along the wings so you can kind of see. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. Not highlight that. This just helps to clean it up. Similar idea as like baking to clean up your contour. Really been enjoying this method. I think it's a lot softer than using like tape or a makeup wipe. Alright, I'm just going to let that sit there for a little bit. Okay, I'm going to take this ColourPop liner. This is in the shade Teaspoon. And I'm going to put that on the waterline. I think that'll be a cool contrast. And I just broke it. Excellent. So the thing about these ColourPop liners, they're super soft and creamy, which makes them really easy to apply. But they break super easily too. Okay, I'm just going to pop this in the waterline. Okay, so I'm going to dip back into the palette. I'm going to take the shade Skye and I'm going to set the waterline with that. This looks very similar to Sugar Peel's Kimchi. I don't have that shadow, so I'm not 100% sure. I haven't seen it in person, but to me that's kind of what this reminds me of. Oh, I really like how that waterline looks. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to take the Pixie Lower Lash Line Mascara and just do my lower lash line. Okay, I'm going to brush away that like bake right there by the eyeshadow. Okay guys, so I just finished up my face and now I want to give you my final thoughts on the palette. This was just a first impression, so I'll have to play around with it a little bit more to really get a good idea of how these shadows perform. But overall, I'm really super impressed with the mattes. Those are beautiful. They are pigmented, but they're super buttery and creamy. There's a little bit of fallout, but nothing too horrible at all. The shimmers were kind of hit and miss, honestly. It seems like most of them, with the exception of Spark, seems like most of them are more kind of just iridescent top coat type of deals. They're not really something you can use on your own and really pack on the lid. That's why I think I had so much trouble with Believer, is it just, that's not how it's supposed to be used. I really, really liked the shade, I really like the shade Maine, but again, it was still a very iridescent kind of top coat feel, and that's how I used it. So I think that's why it worked for me so much better. Again, I think the shade Spark is really more of a true metallic, and that's the only one in there that I really think performs like one, at least that I tried today. I think the rest, again, are just sort of like top coats, and they are really pretty. They do give a nice sheen to the eye, but if you're looking for like a true metallic shadow that's going to be in these colors, I would pass on this palette. But the mattes are excellent. That brown shade Forest is probably the best brown matte I've ever used. So I would definitely buy their palettes again just for the matte shades. Again, like the shimmers, they're okay, but they're kind of difficult to work with. Believer, like when I was trying to blend it out too, was just a disaster. And it just didn't really pack much of a punch on its own. You definitely need to wet them if you want any kind of payoff, really, or at least use your finger. I'd be interested to try more of their palettes. I feel like sometimes when brands do like sort of trendy type stuff like this, like the whole unicorn thing. That's been a big thing for a little bit. I feel like there's a lot of pressure to get them out quickly, and because of that, sometimes the quality can dip, and not just in smaller brands, in huge brands too. That's just something I've noticed. So I would be curious to try some of their more basic palettes, I guess, and see what the quality is like on that. But overall, I did like this palette. I think it's really fun. I do like that there's a mirror. I love the packaging. It's super cute. And I also like that this palette is recyclable. Like, there's a little recycle sign on the back. I've never seen that before in a palette, so that's super cool, I think. I do think this brand is really cool, and I like their whole kind of message and vibe. So I'd be interested to try more of their products. This palette, I think, was about 50-50 for me. Again, mattes are excellent. Shimmers are just kind of meh. However, the color selection, I think, is beautiful. I haven't really seen a palette that looks like this one. I love how there's some neutral shades down here, and then there's more like colorful and cool tone shades. Elsewhere, I haven't seen a layout like this, but it still makes sense. I do wish there were some deeper shades, because like doing the outer V and stuff, really the only thing I could use was the forest, which is a good shadow. But I wanted something more in the color scheme that was deeper. But overall, I do think the color selection is beautiful, and you can obviously create a complete look with it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this palette, first impressions. I'm going to have a lot of fun trying this out some more, and I'll maybe update you on Instagram how that's going. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!